This week, a federal judge announced a temporary block on President Biden's effort to end a Trump-era border policy known as Title 42.
Yeah, this public health order stems from the early days of the pandemic and allows for quick deportation of migrants at the U.S. border. It was scheduled to expire on May 23rd. We want to bring in now the Vice Chair of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, California Congresswoman Nanette Diaz Barragán. Ma'am, thank you so much for being here. This was a public health policy, essentially, that was put in place, I guess, at the height of the pandemic. Do you think we're in a situation, certainly the CDC believes it, but you as well, that this is no longer necessary?
Well, first, thank you for having me. I absolutely believe it's time to end it. When the policy was implemented, there were no vaccines. There was limited testing. Today, we have access to vaccines. We have access to testing. And we are seeing right now the Department of Homeland Security expanding that access to vaccines to migrants at the southern border. So this is the time. It's long overdue. And now we move on to the planning process to lift this on May 23rd.
But do you believe this was ever really a public health issue? There's an argument that certainly can be made and has been made that this was really about immigration and illegal immigration. This was a way to control the border in some way and keep people out, and was never really about public health.
Absolutely. If you talk to a number of public health officials, many have said there was never sound science behind this. You have people crossing the U.S. border at the land ports of entry day in and day out. So we know that this was a Stephen Miller special, a way to shut down the border as much as possible, because in the United States, it's completely legal to come to a port of entry and say that you want to apply for asylum and have your court heard. Title 42 ended that and effectively shut down the ability for people to use existing U.S. law.
After your meeting with the president Monday, you said, quote, "The bottom line is this president walked into a tough situation with a prior administration who dismantled the legal immigration system." What is President Biden doing, and what are your concerns as we're heading into this midterm election year?
Well, we've been hearing this week from Secretary Mayorkas. He briefed members of Congress yesterday. He's on the Hill today. They released a 20-page plan on their preparations at the southern border, and that's the first step here. I was glad to see that they are mobilizing resources to get medical units down there, to get more processors down there, to get more resources to make sure that we are prepared. Congress needs to pass comprehensive immigration reform. We know that. We know that the immigration system is broken. In the meantime, the president is taking all the preparations and actions that he can take to make sure that we are lifting these inhumane policies and that we are moving toward treating migrants with the dignity and the respect and the humane treatment that they deserve. And so there's a lot of work to do, but don't mistake that the immigration system is broken and Congress needs to act. That may not happen, and that's my concern in an election year, is that immigration becomes the signature issue to use as a scapegoat to go after immigrants and to make that an election issue. And that's what's happening, I think, as well. And I'm concerned about that. We saw it when Trump ran his presidential campaign. He came down those escalators and he was initially just went right after immigrants and attacking them. And here we have more of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, instead of trying to help the situation, are not really interested in the plan. They're not really interested in vaccines. They're interested in making this an election issue. But we have to do what's right. And this is something I told the president in the meeting. I said, Mr. President, doing the right thing is sometimes hard to do. And lifting a policy that was not based on science, that was really a political decision, in my opinion, is the right thing to do. We have an immigration system. We have to make sure that we're doing everything we can to help the backlog of cases so that people's cases are heard more efficiently. And that's something I know the administration is working on.
Now, Congresswoman, we have to ask, are you satisfied with the plan you have seen so far? Because there is concern about there could be up to a couple of 100,000 people waiting at that border for May 23rd, and there will be an influx that we are not prepared to handle.
Well, imagine this. For 2 to 4 years, you've had people making the dangerous journey because of war, because of climate change, because of the dangerous conditions in their country. They've been making this dangerous journey, and they've been waiting on the shores of America, where they know there's a law in place that allows them to apply for asylum, but they've been stopped because they can't. So there are people waiting at the border to be able to use American law. So we do expect to see that people will see some numbers increase, but that's why we have to be prepared. And so I was glad to see the Secretary's plan to mobilize folks down there, working with NGOs, having more processors to process folks down there. And Congress has allocated $1.4 billion in 2022 to make sure that the preparations are underway and to have the resources to help make sure that we're coordinating and we're getting people processed as quickly as possible. And if there's a need for more resources, that we have those conversations with Congress to make sure that we give them what they need to make sure that this goes as smoothly as possible. But it's not going to be easy because people have been waiting for 2 to 4 years.
Well, Congresswoman, we certainly hope to have you back. This conversation, this topic isn't going away. So we do appreciate you taking time. Nanette Diaz Barragán, Congresswoman, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Lots of great stuff here. So go on, click the subscribe button right over here to get more of awesome videos and content from GMA every day, anytime. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the morning on GMA.